I'm Elizabeth Henson. Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast, where I'm helping creative dreamers and overachievers tackle business and life. After 6 years of being my own boss, I finally unraveled a tiny bit of what it takes to survive in this amazing world of being an overly creative entrepreneur. I'm your business bestie, here to help you with all those big ideas and to normalize some of the day-to-day struggles that we all share. My mission is simple. I want more women to make a living doing what they love and to feel good about themselves in the process. The best way to start? We can't do it alone. So welcome. I hope you'll hang out with me here where it's totally okay to be messy. Hello, and welcome to the Messy Success Podcast for another week, another episode. I'm so excited. So today's episode is very special. I feel like I am custom creating this episode for one of my Shine Elite students right now who a couple of weeks ago actually said, you know what I'd really like to hear you talk about on the podcast? I'd really like to hear you talk about going full-time and what it looked like to quit a day job and then become a full-time entrepreneur or a full-time wedding photographer turned business coach, all the things, right? And I can't believe that I have been full-time for like 4 years, going on 5 years now. That is crazy to me. And when I was going through this change, I talked about it a lot. I mean, it was no secret that I was doing it. It was no secret that I was creating a business on the side. And I shared about it a lot. I think I did like a 1-year check-in on the blog. So I feel like, it's one of those things in my journey that I've talked about. But it's funny how, we see things that we've done. But the truth is, like, we can continue to show up and talk about these things. And new people are going to hear every time. And we're going to change and we're going to learn. Oh my gosh, the amount that I have learned and grown in the past 6 months is incredible. And the advice that I would give someone about going full time right now versus the advice I would have given a year ago is actually pretty different. So I think that it's so cool that she asked me this. And I mean, gosh, what a great episode to talk about going full-time and quitting your day job, because I know there's so many of you listening that have day jobs that would love to go full-time, or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom, but you'd like to make more of a salary. I mean, that's kind of the same thing, right? To go from unemployed to having, a pretty badass salary. Like that's a step in itself. It's kind of the same type of momentum and same type of decisions that you have to make to go from zero to salary as you do from quitting a day job to salary, right? There just might be a different number in mind. Like if you don't need your salary to survive, you might not need to make the same salary as someone who's going to quit their day job, but it's still the same mindset. It's still the same shift and the same momentum. So I'm really excited to dig in and to share about this. And my Shine Elite student makes great money at her day job. So the fact that she's even kind of considering, making this leap is so incredible. And I just love helping people with this, because when I first started imagining my life without a day job, being my own boss, like it felt pretty unattainable, right? But over time, it started to become more clear and more attainable and more clear and more attainable. And I've been talking and teaching a lot today. So I feel like I'm starting the podcast off a little bit out of breath already. So bear with me. You guys know that I'm pregnant now. The secret is out. Oh my gosh. And I can't believe I didn't mention it already, but we're having a boy. We posted it on Instagram and Facebook over the weekend. We're having a boy. We're so excited. I cannot believe it. I feel like somebody's playing a trick on me and that it's not really a boy. So hang in there with me as I have a little more short of breath. I've had a long day of teaching already. So I've just been talking and talking and talking, but I really wanted to get this episode in today because I'm so excited to share about it. So I'm going to try to break this down into 3 pieces. Okay. The first piece, if you think you want to go full time, is that you have to get out of this place of, I'd really like to I'm going to. Okay. Like there's a mindset shift that has to happen when you say you want to quit your day job, and that you're visualizing it and you're dreaming it, but you have to shift your mind to believe that it's a reality. And that's why one of the first things that I always tell people to do is to have a quit date. I was a teacher, so I feel like my quit date kind of happened naturally. Like I knew I'd either want to do the next school year or I wouldn't. Like I'd want to come back after summer or I wouldn't. So that kind of pushed me into having an easier time setting a quit date. So I was like, okay, well, by May, if I'm making my salary, then I'm going to go ahead and do it, but because I had that date in my mind, I was constantly working towards it. And if we don't take any steps to make that dream a reality, it's going to continue to be a dream. So the first thing that you can do is to set a quit date. And what's the worst that could happen? You might change it. You might not meet it. But even if it's 1 year out, 2 years out, 5 years out, if you write it down in your calendar or on your wall or somewhere that at this date you are going to quit your job and you're going to go full-time into your creative business, you're going to work towards it completely differently than if you live in the land of one day I'd like to, okay? Because if we continue to say one day I'd like to, 5 years later, we're going to still be saying one day I'd like to. I mean, think about all those house projects that you say that sentence. One day I'd like to remodel the bathroom. One day I'd like to paint the house. One day I'd like to get new carpets, right? What changes from that statement to when you actually do get new carpets? There's a plan and a date and a purchase. Steps happen, right? So big life decisions are the same way. We have to actually start putting things into motion for it to happen. And I know that sounds so simple, but having a quit date and working backwards are a huge piece of the puzzle. And something that keeps popping up for me lately that I keep hearing over and over again is one thing that really separates super successful entrepreneurs is that they're just better decision makers, right? So the biggest part of the battle of going full time is just to make that decision, or at least make the decision to work towards it. If that quit date comes and you're not ready yet, nobody is going to cut off your arm for you to follow through, right? You can change the date. You can change the goal. We can change our goal at any moment in time. But if we don't actually make a physical decision for things to happen, then they're not going to. They're going to live in the one day I'd really like to land. And I keep thinking about that and how I keep hearing it, that entrepreneurs are just really good at making decisions. And it's helping me in every little place of my business to just make the decision. I want a new website. Okay, make the decision and do it rather than just sitting back and saying, I want, right? So that is step one, is to set a date and make the decision. Once the decision is made, you'll have so much more clarity in the roadmap, okay? And get out of the I'd really like to land. Get out of dreamy land and make it a reality. Instead of one day I'd like to go full time, say, yes, I do plan on going full time. And I think I'm going to do it in the next year or two. But in the back of your mind, you're like, that's happening by June 15th or whatever you tell yourself. Okay, my next category, my next topic, if you're trying to go full time, is I want you to play out a bunch of different worst case scenarios, because ultimately what's stopping you or what's holding you back in some way, shape, or form is fear. It's fear-based decisions. It's fear-based reasons that are holding you back from making that decision to set a quit date. So whenever I feel the fear creeping in, it helps me to walk through worst case scenarios. So worst case scenario, my job fires me tomorrow. What would I do? Okay, walk yourself through the steps of what you would do, because that could happen. That could happen to any of us, right? You could lose your job. You never know. Worst case scenario, what happens if I quit my job and I do this thing and I don't make any money? Okay, what are some ways we can combat that fear? Okay, maybe it means saving up a nest egg. Maybe it means instead of quitting your job completely, you go part-time, or you search for a job that's more compatible with your business. But playing out the worst case scenarios allows us to talk ourselves through the fears or the plans that need to happen for that to no longer be a fear. But if we don't face the worst case scenarios, then we're going to continue to just live in fear. But I constantly do that when I'm making decisions, like, well, what's the worst that would happen if I do this? What's the worst that would happen if I don't? What's the worst thing that would happen if you don't quit your day job? You're going to be stuck in that job for who knows how long. So, a lot of times I'll tell people, like, at the very least, like, just start looking for a different job that makes you happier and maybe is more compatible with having a side hustle. Some jobs are not super compatible with having a side hustle. So what can you do that would help you grow that business? Because we have to be constantly taking steps and moving in that direction if we actually want to get there. Another thing that I can't take credit for, because James Wedmore has been teaching this over and over and over, and it's just become a new motto of my life, is that if you want to be something, if you want to be a full-time entrepreneur, if you want to have your own business, you have to start acting as if you are already that person. And that has been so huge for me, because I know I've talked on here the last however many episodes, that I'm in a transition right now, and that yes, I'm still shooting weddings, but I don't want to be shooting weddings in my 40s, or at least I don't want to be relying on that to be my main source of income. So how can I go ahead and start being the entrepreneur who's not shooting weddings? Like, that's a big deal for me, right? To have to completely change the way that I show up every day, because I was having to show up in a way that would help book me more weddings. And now I'm having to show up totally differently. All because 4 years from now, I want my life to look different. So I'm going to go ahead and start being that person that I need to be, that's a successful entrepreneur that doesn't have to rely on weddings for her income. And that's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not because I don't want to shoot a wedding tomorrow. I'm fine with shooting weddings tomorrow. I'm shooting weddings all year. I'm shooting weddings into 2020. But if I don't start making some of these changes now, that 40 will creep up on me and I won't have a plan, and I will have just been sitting in this I wish land. So we have to actually show up as the person that we want to be before we actually are that person. But that's how we become that person. So if you want to quit your day job and be a full-time entrepreneur, you've got to start talking to yourself like you're already that person. I mean, when I was about to quit teaching, everyone in that building knew I had a photography business. I was shooting weddings for some of the other teachers' children in the building. Everyone knew. It was no secret that I was doing this thing on the side. Now, they may not have predicted that I would go full time. And a couple of them, I think, still think that I just quit to be a stay-at-home mom. But, I had to present myself and act like myself within myself, looking in the mirror, that I was already a successful wedding photographer, so that when I quit my day job, that I would just be an even more successful wedding photographer. And I knew that's what would happen. And because I knew that's what would happen, because that's the way that I was treating myself, that's what did happen. Like, it sounds so simple. Like, we overcomplicate things, right? We overcomplicate the entire process of quitting a job, and we make it this big unattainable thing, when really all we have to do is be that person. Thank you, James Wedmore, for teaching me that. And I'm still working on it and learning it every single day. So those are kind of my 3 woo-woo, meat and potato things that you need to do to go full-time. So step 1 is make the decision, right? Make the decision of what you want your life to look like. There's so much freedom and clarity and freedom in knowing what we really want. Another one of my Shine Elite students said she wants more momentum and bigger projects. So I'm like, okay, that's great. What does that mean? What exactly is more momentum? Is that more Instagram followers? Is that more social media engagement? Is that more inquiries in your inbox? Probably all the above, right? But if we don't break that word down into something measurable, it makes it so much harder to accomplish. But if we break it down into something that's measurable, then we can have that feeling of accomplishment when we start to see more, right? So the freedom in the decision, the freedom of saying, I am going to go full time. And in your mind, knowing that you have a date, right? You don't have to say it out loud. Say it out loud to somebody, but you don't have to say it out loud to every person you meet. But tell someone, tell your business BFF, your spouse, whoever. Put it on your wall so you constantly have to look at it. And if you already are at home, like I mentioned in the beginning, maybe you want to hit an income goal, right? One of my students just wants to hit her income goal. So make that your goal. By June of 2020, I'm going to be making, $8K a month, or whatever your goal might be. But if we don't write it down and we don't make it real, then we're going to drag our feet on working towards it. The second thing was to play out all the worst case scenarios. If you play out the worst case scenarios, then you can help to break down some of those fears. And they're probably not going to be as bad as you would think. And then the third thing was to be that person that you need to be. Be the person that you see yourself as in 5 years. And the quickest way from point A to point B is to acknowledge that you're already that person and to start stepping into that, right? So woo-woo, but I love it. And those are all such big pieces. Even when I went full-time years ago, I was doing all these things without realizing it. I didn't really realize, hey, I'm already a big successful wedding photographer, but I was acting like I was, but it wasn't as conscious of a decision. Whereas now I'm like, okay, if this is what I want, and I'm very clear on what I want, then this is how I need to be. So those are so important. Okay, so let's talk about some of the little things. Let's talk about some of the little no-brainer pieces that are also important to go full-time. Okay, I want you to think about what kind of nest egg you need, what kind of savings you need, and what you need to do to get there. Like, what number is going to make you comfortable? For me, it was $10,000. So I knew to quit teaching and to go full-time, I wanted to have about $10,000 in the bank. So that's what I did. The last several months that I was shooting, all my money went into savings. And then luckily when I was a teacher, we get paid for the summer. So I was able to work an entire summer shooting while I was still getting, my teacher paychecks. So that all went to savings. And I knew that my bottom dollar had hit the number that I needed it to hit for me to pay my family. And I know I've mentioned this before, but like when I quit, like I had to succeed. There has not been a single month where I've not somehow managed to pay my family, because if I don't pay my family, like we might lose our house, like it's for real. Like I have to make money and this business has to support my family. There's no exception to that. So that's a lot of pressure. But again, what is more important? Like, what do you really want? Do you want the safety of a day job? Do you want to live the life that you're dreaming? Like, which one is more important? And for me, I knew that I was willing to take the risk because I know my personality type. Walking through all the worst case scenarios. Okay, worst case scenario, my business fails. Okay, I'll sell some crap on Craigslist. I'll go back to waiting tables. I'll get another job. Like, I just have always operated off of what I really want over fear. And I've always kind of been a risk taker. But I know that that's harder for some people, right? What else are little important pieces? Obviously, talking it over with your family or your spouse, making sure that you have a plan for health insurance, for all of those little moving parts that are important, but they can be done. I know plenty of single women who own their own business and pay for their health insurance, or husband and wife teams that pay for their own health insurance. Like, everything you need to know is out there, and it's probably on Google. Every answer that you need to help yourself go full-time is out there. You know what? I even Googled, what do you need to do before you go full-time in your business? I was Googling things like that before I quit my day job. And let me tell you actually a really important thing that I discovered. And it was timing is everything. And if you find that you're having a significant amount of momentum in your business and you have this window of opportunity to quit your day job, and you don't take it, you might lose that growth spurt in your business. And I totally believe that because I was doing really well when I quit my day job. And my following year was one of the best years that I've had because I really, really jumped in full force when I had that business momentum. But had I not jumped then and stayed, I could have lost that momentum. So timing really is important. And if you feel your business having growth spurts, you might want to really lean into that. Lean into the growth spurt versus, just playing it safe or I'm not ready yet, because you could lose a lot of that. Not that you can't get it back. Like, I believe that we are in full control of the success of our business, but that was just something that really resonated with me that I read on the Google machine when I was trying to go full time. So that's a little bit about my journey. I did it in 2.5 years from the time I picked up my camera until the time that I quit teaching. Yes, I think that's faster than a lot of people, but I wanted to get from point A to point B. And, we were able to live off of my teacher salary. So every penny that I made from my photography business, I was able to put right back into investing in it. So, where a lot of people are making money and they're putting it into their family right away, I was able to make money and put it right back into the business. So I probably made and spent close to $30,000 those first 2 years. So when I was ready to quit teaching, I didn't have to buy any more gear, or at least nothing, huge. I had already kind of had my website in place, my promo video. I had done all the investing already. So I knew that when I pulled that plug and I stopped teaching, that I wouldn't have any of these major expenses over my head. So that really helped me too, just being really clear on that part. So yeah, that's my story of going full time. And I had my eye on the prize. So I had my eye on May of, I believe it was 2015. The entire school year, probably. The entire school year, I just knew, okay, well, if I'm doing okay in May, if I'm doing okay in May, if I'm doing okay in May. And the closer it got, the more serious I got. And when it was like 2 months out, it was like, okay, it's go time. I got to make this decision, right? So I just did it. And I knew that I had played out my worst case scenarios and that I would be okay, that we would be okay if I failed. And that's half the battle. It's just knowing what's your plan if you do fail. You get back up and you keep trying and you keep working at it. So it all comes down to how important is it? How bad do you want to achieve those dreams? Okay, I hope this was helpful. If you are looking to take your business full time, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear if you're going to go and set a quit date. Let me know. And thank you so much for listening. And my Shine Elite students, I appreciate you so much. I really enjoy doing this work and hearing from you guys and breaking down those goals and all that good stuff. If you're interested in Shine Elite, make sure that you are on the waiting list for the Shine the Light Society. You can go to elizabethhensonphotos.com/Shine the Light Society and get on the waiting list there. And you will be like first to know all the information next time the doors open. Shine Elite is my exclusive group coaching program. And it's only available to the people in the Shine the Light Society. Or if you join Shine Elite, you automatically get the Shine a Light Society with it. So it kind of goes both ways, but you can only join at certain times of the year when the doors are open. So right now we are mid-coaching. Well, we just got started actually. We just got started with this round of Shine Elite. And I'm so excited for these women. And thank you guys so much for just allowing me to coach you like that. And yeah, if you're interested, reach out to me. If you're trying to go full time, I want to hear from you too. Was this episode helpful? All the things. Next week, I am going back to California for my next level retreat with James Wedmore. So I'm going to take the week off from podcasting since I will be up in the air and West Coast time and all the transitions. But that means that I'm going to be coming back with a seriously juicy episode. So hang tight, binge some old episodes if you're not caught up, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks. And I cannot wait to fill you in on all things California and all things that are coming next with the Shine a Light Society. And I'll keep you posted on my students because I know they're going to do big things. All right. Bye, guys.